My name's Carol Austin. On behalf of the Greater Tampa Association of Realtors, welcome. We are so delighted to host this program that our mayor has put together with Landlord and Tenant Training. And so at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Jake. Jake is the director of the City of Tampa Neighborhood Services. When Jake came to our association to talk to us about this program, we worked with our property manager task force, and we all agreed this was a vital program that we needed to do here. So on behalf of the City of Tampa, thank you. And Jake, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and unbelievable crowd considering the horrible weather outside, but thank you, everybody, for coming. Welcome to Mayor Buckhorn's first Landlord Tenant Training program. The mayor made the Landlord Tenant Training program one of his top overall type of priorities when he was running for office, and we are extremely pleased to have you to be a part of this first overall session. By your taking the time today, you are part of a significant initiative to help rid our neighborhoods of slum and blight and prevent illegal activity at the overall rental properties. By you being involved, you are going to positively impact the quality of life in our overall neighborhoods. For this, we say thank you. Before we get started, I would like to thank the Greater Tampa Association of Realtors for partnering with us today. We want to say thank you to Carol Austin, Rebecca Lopez, and the entire board of directors of GTARD. We knew this was going to be a great partnership from the beginning, but we expected probably between 40 and 50 people. As of today, we have over 150 registrations. But we're here to hear from the architect himself of this great initiative. It's my honor and a great pleasure to introduce the mayor to the City of Tampa, Bob Buckhorn.
It's a little disconcerting when you walk into the room and there you are. I got to tell you, I looked a whole lot better when I started this job than I do now. So thanks for reminding me as I now look at all this gray hair that you all gave me. First of all, thank you. Thank you to the Realtors for being our partners on this. As many of you know, we have been in the process of revamping our code efforts over the last 6 months for a variety of reasons, some of which you've read about, many of which you haven't. But the reality is we have an obligation to the people who live in this community, particularly people who live in some of our more challenging neighborhoods. And a code violator or a landlord that refuses to take care of his property can create a circumstance which results in almost like a cancer in the neighborhood. Because if a property is not maintained, if a property is allowed to fall into disrepair, it is like a cancer that spreads from house to house to house. And the folks who are working hard every day to make a living, to do the right thing, don't deserve to live next to a property that is not being maintained. And so for us, it's as much a moral obligation as it is to repair the physical structure. So when we thought about what we could do to help you be successful, many of you may be first-time investors, many of you have multiple properties, many of you may not be familiar with some of the codes and the code changes that have occurred. We wanted the police department to be here to help you understand how the impact of maintaining a property or not can affect crime in a community. I mean, I can't tell you how many houses I've seen that have either been abandoned or overrun with drug dealers or gangs or prostitutes. And what that does to a neighborhood is destabilize it. And it reduces the adjoining property's values. Or people abandon their house because they don't want to live next to a house like this. So we put this together in order to help you and to give you a primer on what we expect of you as landlords and investors, what we expect of tenants in terms of how to maintain their properties and behave accordingly. We really wanted to go the extra mile to give you the tools to manage your properties correctly and to know what the expectations are of you by both TPD and the code folks. I mean, the last thing we want you to have to deal with is someone in a uniform coming to your property and, you know, having a discussion with you. It's not a good way to start your day. And I will tell you that we have really changed the culture in code enforcement. We've added manpower to it. And this problem is not unique to Tampa. Any major city in the country suffers from some of the same challenges. So we've added bodies to it. We took Clean Cities, which was a program that was out maintaining some of these vacant properties or abandoned properties or rights of way, and married them to code enforcement so that you have a 1-2 punch there. We've added revenue, we've changed processes, we have made code enforcement a much more efficient, much more grounded, much more functional agency. So we're going to do our part, but we need you to do your part as well. And so the fact that you are here today being willing to learn to become better landlords and investors says a lot to me, because I need you to go spread the word. You know, one landlord could have multiple properties in this community and affect multiple neighborhoods and, you know, thousands of lives by extension. So we need everybody to be on the same page and recognize that, you know, as East Tampa goes, so goes Palmacia. We really are all in this together. We can't let one neighborhood deteriorate by virtue of either absentee landlords or folks who are just not paying attention. So thank you for being here. We're going to put on a good show for you. Shannon Edge has done a great job putting all this together. Shannon, raise your hand back there in the back of the room. So learn, absorb. If you have questions, ask them. There's no such thing as a silly question. This is complicated stuff. So we are here to help you be successful, and in the end result, our neighbors and neighborhoods will be better. So buy lots of properties. I want you all to make a lot of money. Play by the rules. Do it right. You won't have to worry about us. And those that choose to do the alternative, they're going to worry about us, because we're going to be on them. We do have that moral obligation. So thanks, Jake, and thanks to the staff and to Sal. Let's have a good session today. Ask these guys any questions that you need to ask them. They are here to serve you. So thanks, everybody. Let's get it done. All right?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to first actually start off by thanking the partners who helped actually put this on today. They're Hillsborough Title, Housemaster, the Landlord Property Management Academy. We really appreciate you guys stepping up to the plate for us, because we could not have done this without you. Thank you very much. Due to the overwhelming response, we're hosting another session on October the 28th. Again, we were totally overwhelmed by the amount of registrations for this. Again, I was thinking somewhere between 40 and 50 people, but we've actually doubled that. Before we start with the presentations, I would like to just give a brief overview of our department. Can we get the slides going, Susan? I'm in charge of the Neighborhood Empowerment Department, and that encompasses 5 overall different divisions. And they are the Neighborhood Enhancement Division, formerly known as Code Enforcement and Clean City. Business Tax, which is occupational licensing. We have over 16,000, we have over 45,000 business tax receipts in the city of Tampa. The Neighborhood Engagement and the Community Partnerships, those are the people who like to work with our overall neighborhood associations. The Community Fairs, Marissa Betancourt's here. She's the supervisor. Thank you. And we have Shannon Edge from the Mayor's Neighborhood University and overall landlord training. We have about 100 people in this division, or this department, and we interact with other neighborhoods. And what we try to do is to make it a one type area in which any type of neighborhood overall concerns, you could call us, and we can take care of almost anything in here. It's been a busy couple of months for us. I've been with the city for about 39 years now, formerly with Tampa PD. And what I'm known for now is one thing: trailer parks. I don't know if that is overall good or bad. But that's why we're here today. We want to partner with you. We need your help. You are the folks that can make our overall city a whole lot better. So that's why we're here. I want to introduce the manager of our neighborhood enhancement team. I've had the pleasure of actually working with him back at the PD for 30 years. He's a former major with the police department, and Sal Ruggiero. Good to have him aboard with us. I want to introduce Susan Windrick, actually one of our code enforcement supervisors. She's been with code enforcement since she was 10 years old. She does a great job, and she'll be going with the slideshow. You ask, if there's one thing I can ask for, let's hold all of the questions until like the end. We have a PowerPoint presentation that will go over all the things that we do, but let's try to hold them until like the end. Susan Windrick.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. We're very glad that you're here. And the PowerPoint is basically going to go through every single thing in the booklet. So there might be a couple pages that are a little redundant, but that's really the best way to learn, is to repeat it a couple of times. And then we've got some pictures to show some of the examples of what we deal with. Some are a little extreme, but these are true cases that we have had. Okay, we'll be discussing your Florida State statute. I will not be going into detail with that, as we do not govern the Florida State statute, but I did want to make sure that you knew where to find that in case you have things you'd like to look up on your own. It's Florida State Statute number 83. It's the Landlord and Tenant. They've got non-residential, residential, and then self-service and storage spaces. You can just go online to Florida State Statutes, follow the prompts in order to find that if that's something that you're interested in. And then next, we'll be going over the City of Tampa codes, which is primarily what we enforce. We enforce Chapter 19, one of the primary things that we enforce, which is your structural standards and property maintenance. In short, all your property must be cleaned, mowed, trimmed. There can't be any trash, junk, or debris, or inoperative vehicles. And I know a lot of the landlords have concerns of tenants with their inoperative vehicles. One of the problems, we cannot go onto private property and tag and remove a vehicle. The property owner is ultimately responsible for their property, so we would have to issue notice to the landlord. Now, we have gone to private property with the consent of the landlord, tagged the vehicle, and had it removed. So there is another option there for you, because we do understand that it's not your car. But it is a violation of the code, and it is something that we do enforce. Okay? Every commercial and residential building, houses, or apartments must be kept in a good state of repair. Am I on the same one? Yeah. They must meet the minimum standards, guidelines regarding structural maintenance, all your plumbing, electrical facilities. Your code enforcement inspects buildings and properties to ensure they're being maintained in accordance with codes. So everything in this book is just going to be details of this summary page. All right? And then first we'll start off with your structural standards. These are the basic structural standards. What I did is I took the most common violations. Our code is very complex, very detailed, and very thick. The book is very thick. It's also online for those of you that would like to view it online. But what we did is took the most common things that people complain about, or that they violate, or that get neglected, and went into detail on those. This is just a brief summary of the next few pages to follow. So I'm going to skip through this page and go straight to the next one, which is the picture shall begin. All structures, accessory structures, appurtenances, and fences shall be free of deterioration and maintained in a good state of repair, so that the appearance of the premises and structures shall not constitute a blighting factor for adjoining property owners, nor an element leading to the progressive deterioration and downgrading of the neighborhood. This is an actual picture of one of the neighborhoods where we live. You can see the screening is down. I don't know if you can tell really good along the fascia and the eaves of the roof line there, but that's all rotted, deteriorated, and decayed, and then some of the windows are boarded up. Boarding up windows, if it's a vacant building, and here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. If it's vacant and secure, you don't need to board it up. You're trying to sell it, invest in it, show it, you don't need to board it up. If it's being vandalized, if people are breaking the windows and breaking in, it's unsecure, then we very possibly would issue the order to have it boarded up. It needs to be secured to the vacant code. Securing to the vacant code, there's specific guidelines on that are also in detail in Chapter 19 of the City Tampa Code. As you'll see, the boarded up window is raw plywood. It has to be painted. It has to be impervious to any elements, any weather. So that's just an example of what we deal with on the houses. Next, some of you might recognize this house. If it's your property, I apologize. This picture was taken in 2007, so if it still looks like this, somebody in here is in trouble. That's what I'll tell you. The exterior of all structures, accessory structures, again, the appurtenances and fences shall be protected from the elements by the application of paint or other approved protective material. Again, it's to protect the structure from the elements. This, I'm sure all of you already know this, but we're gearing the class towards tenants as well as landlords. But as you can see in this house, this was an occupied house. Okay? People were living here. And it's also a blighted factor for the community, which also brings in the element of crime when you have such blighted conditions in your neighborhood. So you truly can see and understand the need to keep your structures protected. It looks like they started to do it a little bit along the back side, but they clearly have not finished. And this one may be a little extreme, but I wanted you to get a good visual of what we're talking about when regarding roofs, that they have to have a suitable covering free of holes, cracks, or excessively worn surfaces to prevent the entrance of moisture into the structure. Again, people were living in this house. I can honestly tell you, you would not believe some of the situations that we come across. You'll get to a picture in here where you'll actually see somebody's legs in the picture. But these are things that we come in, if it's declared unfit for human habitation, we have to literally remove the tenant from the home and placard it until it's brought up to code. But I know it's a little extreme on the roof picture, but this is out there. Okay, another problem is the dwelling shall be responsible for the repair of replacement of all electrical fixtures, plumbing, equipment. They must be in good working order. The wastewater pipes, they must be maintained in good condition, free of defects, leaks, and obstructions. You cannot interrupt the service of a supplied facility unless it's necessary while the actual repairs are being made. And again, this next page is a summary page of the next few things to follow. And if you're following along on your booklet, you'll see the people's legs and feet that I was telling you about. There they are. There they are. This, as you can see, somebody was actually living in this home. And you can see the floor covering that they had to deal with. This is rental property. People felt this was appropriate and okay to rent this property out to somebody in the community. Every floor, wall, and ceiling shall be capable of affording privacy. Exterior floors, walls, and ceilings shall be weather tight. Floors in kitchens and bathrooms shall be covered with asphalt, vinyl plastic, rubber tile, ceramic tile, terrazzo, linoleum, or other durable, waterproof, non-absorptive materials that are impervious to moisture. Carpet is not acceptable in a kitchen or a bathroom. All other flooring throughout the dwelling shall be approved grade and type of material properly installed. Okay. And moving on to the exterior, every window, exterior door, and basement hatchway shall be weather tight, maintained without cracks or holes, and in good state of repair. Windows intended for ventilation must be equipped with fully operable hardware. As you can see, there's cracks in the windows, the exposed plywood. And moving into the sanitary facility. Again, this page basically is a summary of the next few pages to come. I always like to try to summarize it for those, and then I follow up with a little detail and some pictures just to give you an idea. Because sometimes when you read through the code requirements, this doesn't happen. Oh, but yes, it does. It happens more often than you can imagine. This is a kitchen of one of the occupied dwellings from where a family was living. Every kitchen sink, every dwelling unit shall contain a kitchen sink in good working condition and be connected to water in the sewer system. A connection to hot, cold water lines, every kitchen sink, lavatory basin, bathtub, and/or shower required shall be connected with both hot and cold water lines and installed in accordance with the building code. Garbage disposal facilities. Every dwelling unit shall have approved garbage disposal facilities or approved garbage storage containers. You don't have to have a garbage disposal attached to the sink, but you do need to provide receptacles, trash cans, for the people to have a way of disposing of their waste. Okay? Honestly, these are places people were living, to give you a good visual of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Water closet, also known as the bathroom. Every dwelling unit shall contain a separate room which affords privacy and which is equipped with a toilet. Bathtub or shower. Every dwelling shall contain a room which affords privacy, which is equipped with a bathtub and or shower. Lavatory. Every dwelling shall contain one, a sink, close proximity to the water closet. Moving into the structural standards. Again, this is a detailed page of the pages to follow, where you will learn that every dwelling unit shall be equipped with permanent heating equipment, which shall be capable of adequately heating a room temperature to 70 degrees when measured 3 feet from above the floor in all your habitable rooms. Okay? Your uninhabitable rooms, such as your closets, doesn't have to reach there. We do not require air conditioning, believe it or not, in the state of Florida. We do not require an air conditioning. There's no code that limits the excess of temperature, only on a heating level. You have to be able to maintain a heat of 70 degrees when measured 3 feet from the center of a room. At no time shall an unvented fuel fire heater of any type be installed or used in any room at any time that is used for sleeping purposes. You cannot use an unvented fuel fire heater in any multifamily dwelling. Those are your little space heaters. Moving into smoke detectors. As you will see clearly, the one on the left is an example of what not to do, not installed to code, and the one on the right is installed permanently. They're required for each dwelling, and they have to be installed in accordance with the NFPA installation and maintenance. They had a change in the code on your smoke detectors in the placement for new dwellings versus old dwellings. If it was an old dwelling and if we come in and it's working to code, if it's working, then it's fine. But if we come in and the smoke detector's not working, then we're going to require it be hardwired and installed to the new set of regulations. If you have ceilings that are pitched, you install it near the ceiling's most highest point. Never paint your smoke alarm, put stickers or any decorations that could keep the alarms from working. A lot of these, I think, you guys probably already know that, but the alarms should be hardwired. They should have battery backups in case of power outage, and they should be installed by a qualified electrician. The smoke alarms must be installed at every level of your home, including your basement, if you have one, making sure that there is an alarm outside every separate sleeping area. The new homes are now required to have smoke alarms in every sleeping room. Again, if you have any questions on the installation of smoke detectors or preventative maintenance, check with the NFPA. That's your National Fire Prevention Association standard for the installation, maintenance, and use of household fire warning equipment. Okay, moving into lighting and ventilation. Habitable room. Any room that is used or intended to be used for sleeping, cooking, living, or eating purposes is a habitable room. Your enclosed spaces, such as your bathroom, your service rooms, corridors, laundry, hallway, those are not habitable rooms. Your habitable rooms are your main rooms. Every habitable room should have at least one window or skylight facing directly to the outdoors, shall be at least 10% of the floor area of the room. So that gives you the size of your window. Most of the rental properties that you have are already built structures that have this safety met. If you're getting into new construction, you might want to pay attention to that. Or a lot of people have subdivided houses, and by doing that, they cut off the amount of lighting and ventilation allowed in a room. If you've subdivided different rooms, put up partitions, these are things that you need to consider. Before doing that, you might have to install an additional window, okay? If the only window is a skylight type window in the top of the room, then the total window area should be 15% of the total floor area. But every habitable room should have at least one window that can easily be opened or such other device that will adequately ventilate the room. Every bathroom shall comply with the above light and ventilation requirements unless the bathroom is equipped with an approved ventilation system. If you have an exhaust fan, then you don't have to have a window in the bathroom. bottom line. If you do not have an exhaust fan in the bathroom, you have to have a window that can be opened, okay? Moving into the electrical facilities and lighting of the halls. Every dwelling shall be wired for electric lights, convenience receptacles, in a state of good working condition. You can see with some of the examples of the ones on the top, those you would be given a notice to repair. The ones at the bottom are the examples of good condition and installed correctly. Again, these are actual pictures of places that we have under inspection in the top row. Okay, moving into your structural standards, your protection against mosquitoes, insects, rodent control, every window and other device with openings to the outdoor spaces shall be supplied with screens and removable frames, unless the dwelling contains central heat and air for mechanically ventilating the structure year-round. Those are not required to have screens. If you do not have central heat and air in every one of your rental properties, if you have the window shakers, you have to have screens in every window. A lot of people had no idea that that was a code requirement. The only way you can get away from having screens in every window is if you have central heat and air. That's a city ordinance. All of these in this particular PowerPoint you can find in the City of Tampa Codes, Chapter 19. That's online. If you go to mytampagov.net, you can pull up our ordinance, local ordinance codes, and go to Chapter 19. And more in detail, 231, 19-231. Like I said, we just took the most important things, the most common violations, and put into this PowerPoint. A lot of people had no idea that some of these codes existed. Probably, I'm sure that some of you do know this. Okay, moving into the structural standards for space requirements. Every dwelling unit shall contain a habitable room area of at least 150 square feet of floor area for the first occupant, and at least 100 additional square feet of floor for every additional occupant. Every dwelling unit shall have a minimum of 24 square feet of total shelving and wall and base cabinets for storage of cooking utensils. Your kitchen has to have at least a 24 square foot cabinet for cooking utensils. Moving into stairs, porches, and the appurtenances. Your guardrails for dwellings shall be a minimum of 36 inches high, 3 feet high. They shall have a maximum spacing between rails so that a 6-inch sphere cannot pass through any opening. They have to be that close together, okay? You can see the different rungs on what that means. The protective railings or handrails shall be required on any unenclosed structure over 3 feet from ground level. Meaning you have to have a handrail if your step is up 3 feet higher to get into your home, okay? All unenclosed floor openings, roof openings, landings, ramps, balconies, or porches, which are more than 30 inches above the ground level or a floor below, shall be protected by a guardrail. Moving into property maintenance. Okay, excessive growth of accumulations of debris, rubbish, trash, excessive undergrowth, maintenance of rights-of-way, and the offensive conditions. Your property shall be maintained and free of any accumulations of debris, rubbish, trash, garbage, snipe signs, or junk. The existence of excessive or unintended growth of weeds, undergrowth, plant life exceeding 12 inches over the majority of the parcel, or which endangers the public health, safety, or welfare is prohibited. Abutting rights-of-ways shall be maintained. The vacant right-of-way or abandoned alley shall be maintained between the center line of the alley. If you have an alley behind your property, the center line of that alley to your property is your responsibility to maintain. A lot of people do not know that. But we do have good news for you. If you have had illegal dumping that has occurred in your alley, you can call our office, and we do have a special team that will go by and pick up the illegal dumping, okay? Because we do understand and recognize that that's not a neglect of your responsibility of property maintenance. So we do have that, and that was what the mayor was speaking of when he combined Clean City with code enforcement, was to get these type of services provided. His goal is to get the city clean and to keep it clean. So as property owners, you are responsible for maintaining half of that alley back to your property, and then also the front right-of-way that goes along the property line, okay? Nothing shall be allowed on the premises within the corporate city limits that is offensive or noxious by reason of the emission of odors, gases, dust, smoke, light, vibration, noise, including noises from animals, nor anything be constructed to or maintained that would constitute an eyesore or nuisance to the adjacent property owners in the community. There you have it. These are some, like I said, some examples that I'm sure your property never gets in this condition, but I really wanted to give you a good visual of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And the properties have to be free of the junk. This is all repeating what I said in the previous slide. I just want to give you good pictures of what we see when we go out there. People will tear down a shed or do some repairs and just leave the pile out there on the property for months at a time, and this is what the neighborhood has to deal with and live with. Or the property next door, the one on the right, gets so overgrown, you get snakes and all kinds of other problems that come with that. You get people that can hide in the overgrowth, and it really brings in an element of crime to the neighborhood that's unwanted. Property maintenance for the storage of inoperative vehicles, junk, scrap metal, graffiti, swimming pools, and spas. We've already discussed about the inoperative vehicles. It is against the code to have an inoperative vehicle on that property longer than 72 hours. If a guy's changing a flat tire or just doing a brief little maintenance or something to his vehicle, that is not a problem. The problem is the cases, I'm sure you guys have all seen them, where you've got that derelict vehicle that's sitting there for months on end and forever. Grass is growing up around it. We can't go on that property and tag that property unless we have specific written consent from the landlord, the owner of the property. If we get specific written consent, then we can enter on it. Now, if the property has a fence in the front, it's locked, has no trespassing sign on it, we will not cut that lock and go on. We will be issuing notice to the property owner. So hopefully in your lease agreements with your tenants, you have some type of verbiage in there that requires them to meet the city codes, and if they do not, that we're allowed to enter on the property and handle this for you. We'll be glad to do that for you, but you will need to be the one to meet us there, unlock the gate, and allow us to gain entry to tag the vehicle. If it's on the right-of-way in front of your home, we can tag it and impound it without getting your approval. It's on government property, it's on city right-of-way. If it's on private property, again, we need you to be there for us to tag that car and impound that car. We'll be glad to do that for you, but we will need your cooperation on that. Graffiti, let me see if I have some photos. Yes. Example of an inoperative vehicle, and then one of graffiti, and then of course the lovely swimming pool. And graffiti shall be removed or obscured as soon as it is discovered. You will need to either pressure wash it, paint it, whatever needs to be done to have it taken off. If it's on the exterior, say you have a garage facing an alley or something, we possibly could assist with a graffiti abatement removal for you. You'll need to let us know that. Swimming pools shall be kept in good working order so that the water remains free and clear of all pollutants and debris. The water clarity shall be such that the lowest part of the pool can be seen from the deck. The water quality shall be such that it does not create a breeding ground for mosquitoes or other insects. If a swimming pool has been converted to a fish pond, there must be adequate filtration to, it happens, I'm telling you, we've seen, yeah, some deliberately and some not so deliberately. We'll leave that there. But if it has been converted to a fish pond, there must be adequate filtration to ensure the water does not become stagnant and create a breeding ground for mosquitoes and other insects. Moving into rental property and the business tax. Those of you that are tenants in the room do not have to really be concerned with this portion of it, but those of you, and I believe the majority are landlords, owners, this is a particular interest to you. All residential dwellings, for rent or offered for rent, must have a certificate of compliance with housing standards. How do you get that? In order to obtain that, an inspection must be completed by our department once every 3 years. Okay, but that does not prevent us from coming in the interim if we get a complaint or a concern that happens between the 3-year time frame. We can actually go at any time. In order to get your rental certificate, you must first make application with the Neighborhood Empowerment's Business Tax Division. For those of you that do not know, they are located in the fabulous German American Club building at 2105 North Nebraska Avenue, historic building. They are down on the basement floor. You can go, I believe you can also do that online if you've already got it established. Currently, the first year, it is $35 per unit. In addition to the business tax, it's the number of rooms, there is a $10 administrative, in addition to business tax, there's the business tax on the number of rooms. Pardon me, I wasn't reading right. A $35 fee for each unit, and then there's taxes. A $10 administrative handling fee. Every year after that, it's a $10 per unit, plus the business tax, and the $10 administrative handling fee. If you renew them regularly, you guys know you get your renewal in the mail every year, and you can do it online, you pay online and go through that. If you're not familiar with that, you can go to call the Business Tax Division and get a little more detail and insight on that. And any government employee, any City of Tampa employee, I'll tell you this, their email address is their first name dot their last name at tampagov.net. So if you need to email Joe Pappy, you would email joe.papy at tampagov.net. And he can give you all the information you need to know. Or you can always go on our website. We're on the web. You can check on our website, navigate through the business tax side of it, and it could explain it to you a little bit more in detail. Once your property is registered with code enforcement, there's a request for an inspection scheduled. Once the inspection has been completed and no violations are observed, the certificate of compliance with housing standards is issued. The certificates are not transferable to another unit, and the certificate shall be effective on the first day of October every year for a period of 1 year unless it is revoked. It may be maintained by annual renewal and continued compliance. Moving into zoning, the next one of our codes that we enforce is zoning, which is typically your land use and also the city's sign code. They just combined them into one. They're all held in Chapter 27, so if you need to look that up on the city code, you would go into Chapter 27, City of Tampa Codes, Municipal Ordinances, Chapter 27, your land use and signs. Basically, zoning is what regulates the use of the land. Each parcel of land is identified by a type of zoning, and each type of zoning has different rules of what the land can be used for. Code enforcement ensures that people are using their parcel of land according to the rules designated by zoning. Signs, the City of Tampa, they regulate the size, the placement, and the quantity of all signs. We inspect existing signs on private property to make sure that they're installed correctly. If it's on private property and is illegally in the city's right-of-way, it would be subject to immediate removal. And then I got some pictures for you. Okay, the top ones are land use issues, recreational vehicles, the setbacks of recreational vehicles. This also is an inoperative vehicle, the boat. We could tag it and have it removed as an inoperative vehicle. If it was just the fact that the guy's tag expired, then we would issue notice as a land use violation because it doesn't meet the setbacks. In this case, I believe it has to be setbacks so many feet from the front property line. And then he's got the little junk car on the side. And then to the right is the semi, which is a commercial vehicle in a residential zone not permitted. Below are just some examples of signs, different signs. On these signs, we impound them if they're in the right-of-way. But another thing that we do, if the signs are not in the right-of-way, and even some that are in the right-of-way, if there's a boatload of them, we'd have them put on a robocalling list. So if you're putting signs out there, just so you know, you may be put on a robocalling list. You'll get called every 20 minutes till your signs, until you come into our office. until you come into our office and see us. So, and we also have a sign removal program. Some people want a volunteer sign program, that there are citizens out there that want to be a part of our, let me get my plug in on the signs, that they volunteer. There's volunteers for the city that they go through the neighborhoods and they remove the signs, bring them to us, and then we follow through on the robocalling and property maintenance on that end of it. Okay, moving into the responsibilities, the inspection process, and our code enforcement methods. Well, I'm excited. I've been doing this for 30 years, so I was 10 when I started here. And I have been in this department all of those 30 years, so I've basically grown up here. And it is exciting for me. I know it may not be as exciting for you guys, but I'm loving it. Ultimately, the land use, the structural maintenance, and the overall condition of the property is the responsibility of the property owner. Hands down, it absolutely is. Anytime we take legal action or have a lien or fine or fee going against your property, you need to be notified. As the property owner, you're responsible for the following: all structural violations, the certificate of compliance with housing standards, the rental certificate, inoperative vehicles, property maintenance, accumulations of trash, junk, or debris, land use violations, and any life safety concerns. All of the things that we have just previously discussed, it's the responsibility of the property owner. However, if certain violations exist, the tenant can be cited. In order to cite a tenant, the tenant must be home at the time. We need to know who it is. And we have to be able to, and they have to have proper identification. We have to be able to prove that it was that tenant that did that violation. They may be held responsible for an inoperative vehicle if they're the owner of the car, the accumulations of trash, junk, or debris if they're proven to be the responsible. Like, I've gone up to some rental property and they had, you know, bags of beer cans all along the side there. And the guy says, yeah, that's my stuff. Okay, here you go. Sign here. Sign here. You might want to pick that up and recycle that, sir. So we try to be really nice about it, but it was good. They can also be cited for any life safety concerns if they're the violator. And also, if we catch them in the act of changing their oil on the property, they will be fined immediately. Trimming a tree, they will be fined immediately. So we do have mechanisms to cite the tenant immediately if they are the violator. But regards to your property maintenance and your structural conditions, the landlords, the owners of those properties, are ultimately the responsible party. Yes, sir?
Trimming a tree, they can't trim a tree.
You can trim a tree. However, there's always that however in there. The limb has to be a certain size and diameter to be able to trim it without obtaining permits. And I believe our certified arborist, Mr. Bruce Lucas, could go into more detail on the size of the tree limb, which would be 4 inches. And a grand tree or protected tree of any kind needs to have a permit ahead of time. Yeah. And another thing that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to trees, your property line extends straight up 500 feet. If the limb goes over your property, but the tree's on her property or his property, the part that goes over your property is your responsibility. Absolutely is. Even though the main tree's on that guy's property, it's his tree. No, sir, that limb is yours. Your property line goes straight up 500 feet. A lot of people do not know that. Now, you cannot trim a tree to a point that would cause any type of detriment to the life of that tree. If you say, okay, that's on my side, I'm trimming it straight up, baby. Okay, now you got all the weight on this side. You've got all the weight on this side. That tree's just going to like topple over. You will be in trouble. You'll be in violation. So make sure, when in doubt, have a certified arborist come out. The city of Tampa has a great tree and forestry staff. We've got a certified arborist on our staff. We are here to help you. Make sure you take advantage of that. When in doubt, ask us first. We'll be glad to come out and help you out. We'll tell you need a permit, and then they'll guide you to what you can remove legally and safely for that tree. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Grass in a deed-restricted area, do we have to replace it behind the fence?
Here's the thing about deed restrictions. Well, according to us, the answer would be no. According to your homeowners association, the answer would be yes. We do not enforce any HOA rules or regulations. They might be the same as ours that we enforce, but if it's a fact that you can't have a pickup in your driveway overnight, it has to be in the enclosed garage, We don't care. Is it operable? Is the vehicle junk? Then we care. But as far as your homeowners association saying, no, we want all vehicles parked inside the garage overnight, okay, that's nice. All the homeowners agreed to that when they bought that property. That's between them and that association. But be very careful, because that association can take legal action against you. But code enforcement will not. We do not enforce the homeowner rules. We do enforce rules and regulations similar to theirs, but we do not enforce theirs and go into any detail on that at all. They try to make us, but we don't. Now, moving into our inspection process. The first thing that we do when we investigate, now we get our complaints one of many ways. We get them by phone calls, U.S. mail, believe it or not, we still get U.S. mail, emails, phone calls, and the internet. However the complaint comes in is of no matter to us. Every single concern, every single complaint is answered and inspected and investigated. We go out to the property. If the violations exist, we issue a warning. Everybody gets a warning, letting them know of what the concerns are, what the problem is. Then we go out on a second inspection. If it fails, the disposition of that case is determined by the circumstances. Every case is reviewed and determined on the facts of where we need to take that case. Probably more often than not, in past, we have been going to the Code Enforcement Board. We also, most of our cases currently now go to civil court. Civil court, they are issued a fine. If they are still in violation when we get there, depending on what the problem is, the most common is your level 1, which is a $75 fine. That's usually your overgrowth, your accumulations, things like that. That's usually a level 1 violation, which is a $75 fine. If we come back a second time, it bumps up to a $150 fine. If we come back a third time and they still didn't get the message, it's a $300 fine, mandatory court appearance. Have to go before the judge. Those are very rare, but we also have escalating fines determined by the severity of it. If it's a health safety issue, the fine could start off at $450, depending on cutting a grand old oak. Could start off, I think, even higher than that. Criminal court, the one that we have in red, I don't know if it shows up in red there, but it is in your booklet. That's a mandatory court appearance with the county judge right off the bat. That is typically for your most egregious cases. We typically will use those when we have tried everything and exhausted all means. When we have issued the notice, when we have taken them to civil court, we have issued the ticket, the fine, then we're going to go to criminal court. And the judge has put people in jail. So just to let you know, that's a real serious one to get a criminal court offense. And then we also have, last but not least, is the contractor abatement. This is primarily reserved for vacant properties, but it is one of our abatement processes, so it needed to be on here. Typically on occupied properties, we do not go on and mow it and send the owner the bill. We have, if depending on the situation, if it is a life-threatening issue, then we certainly will. Contractor abatement, we send it out for, we have a contractor on staff that bids on it on a 3-year contract. He'll go out, mow the property, clean it up. We send the property owner the bill, and then if the bill's not paid, then the lien goes on that property for that cost plus an administrative fee. When you go to the code board, all cases that are processed to the code board are handled by a magistrate. The magistrate will hear cases with a plea of guilty, or if the respondent does not appear. So if you get notice to go to the Code Enforcement Board and you do not show up, that hearing magistrate will hear your case whether you are there or not. If you come and plead guilty, then he will also hear your case and then give you the timeline on which to get it completed. If you plead not guilty, then it goes to a full board, which is a couple weeks later. It's the 4th Wednesday of the month. We have hearings the first 3 Wednesdays, and the 4th Wednesday is the full board. For everybody that pled not guilty, you will be heard that same month on that 4th Wednesday. And then the magistrate will assess a daily fine determined by the severity of the violations and the testimony of the inspector. We come in with photographs, the dates that we were there, the dates to reinspection. I mean, we have a thick file to present to the hearing master to prove our case. So if you're going to challenge us, make sure you got all your case. Make sure you got your photos. But the order is a recorded order at the Hillsborough County Courthouse. So make sure that you do understand that, that any time it goes to a code board hearing, that it is very important that you show up for that hearing. It is a recorded order at the courthouse, and it is a lien against that property if it's not corrected by the date set forth from that hearing master. And they typically will also assess a daily fine of so much money per day until the violations are corrected. So if you have, and make sure that your address of delivery is registered with the courthouse is where you would like to receive your mail. A lot of people move and forget to do that. They put a forwarding in or a P.O. box, but they never change the address of delivery at the tax assessor's office, which is where we are required by law to send that notice is to that address. So please make sure that if you do move or relocate or want your mail delivered elsewhere, that you have that recorded at the courthouse. Civil court, we briefly went over that already. The citation is issued. The fine is determined by the level of violation and the number of the offenses. Criminal court contractor abatement, we pretty much went over already. Property maintenance techniques, preventative maintenance suggestions. We've got a maintenance checklist, and these next few documents are really just some suggestions to help landlords when dealing with rental property. If you own multiple properties, use the same color scheme inside and out. By using that same color scheme, you will always have touch-up paint on hand. You can easily touch up needed areas before they become a larger problem. It's suggested that you keep a window screen spline wheel on hand. Most of the time, the spleen has come out of the, or undone on the screen and it's just pushed out of the frame. You can just wheel it back in before it gets tattered and torn to a point where it has to be replaced. Keep a toolbox with you when inspecting your rental property. Sometimes it's just one board that needs to be tacked back into place with a nail and or a hammer. Keep the proper amount of trash receptacles needed for the amount of occupants within the dwelling. That's a huge one. If people don't have enough trash cans to put their waste in, then it sits in the yard in a bag, then a dog gets a hold of it or whatever and gets strewn all over the place. So make sure that they have the proper amount of receptacles that are needed. If you rent out a place to someone that there's 2 occupants, you're probably going to need 1 can. But if it's a family of 8, you might need a few more, okay? Leave code enforcement brochures with the tenants. We will be updating our brochures and getting some. That let them know about their role and responsibilities. Some tenants may need a reminder of what's allowed and what's prohibited. Use an inspection sheet, which is one of the things that we have attached. Check the rental property on a monthly basis. Keep track of the inspections on a maintenance form. And then provide the tenants with a concern form. Let them know you want to hear from them and what items might need attention. This way it helps you. I mean, if you have multiple properties and you are all over the city at different places, you may not remember which place needed that receptacle cover, which one was cracked. You may not remember which one it was, but if you have a concern form from your tenant, it might help you out to keep it, track of what everybody needs. This is an inspection checklist, and this is one of the checklists that our inspectors use when they go to do interior and exterior inspections of a dwelling. It's got your exterior structural maintenance. It's got your stairs, porches, and appurtenances, and your interior structure maintenance, and then the sanitary facilities and property maintenance. Just a little checklist to give you a scan. It's very easy if you go to the same place over and over and over again to overlook things and forget certain things. This you can just do a little scan, say, yeah, everything's in check, looks good to me, and move it on. The inspection schedule. A lot of people like this. It's a good idea. It's got every month represented. It's got the concerns, the comments. Did they pay the rent? And then verify, because a lot of people have a manager that does their property for them, or a brother-in-law. Right? We all have those that say, "Hey, go do this for me. I'm tied up today." You might have someone else that goes to collect that rent, or that had concerns at that property, or that went there that month. And this way, you remember, "Oh yeah, I didn't do it that month. It was Johnny." So you'll know to go back and ask him. Did they have any problems, did the switch plate get fixed? Just to double check on it. And this way it keeps things from becoming a bigger problem. And then the last on this is the tenant concern form. You might leave that with them, because a lot of times you may not see your tenant. You might deal with everything by mail. If they have one of these forms, they can just drop it in the mail to you. It says, hey, my ceiling fan went out, or the wires are hanging down, blah, blah, I'm not comfortable with touching the wires. Can you send your maintenance guy by to help, to do this for me? They can just mail this in to you if they can't get a hold of you. What can you do? Oh, not on that one. This one's not on the PowerPoint. It's on your booklet, though, what you can do to help. If you see something, say something. Needing you to be the eyes and the ears and the voices back to us. If you have concerns in your neighborhood, not only the rental properties that you own or the tenants that live in those rental properties, if you have concerns in your neighborhood, please call us. We need to get to those before it becomes a bigger problem. It's that old broken window theory. Once the deterioration begins, once the blight sets in, it just a snowball effect and gets really worse and your communities get deteriorated. Let us know. Don't think that it's a problem or a bother for us. Let us know. Email us, call us, however, or go online, Customer Service Center, City of Tampa's website, go online. Thank you.